Suggests Bukele's declaration gives President Trump cover to maintain that he is powerless to implement a judge's directive that the U.S. facilitate Abrego Garcia's immediate return. To unpack the legal and political implications of the collaboration between President Trump and his counterpart in El Salvador, we welcome William Lopez, professor of public health at the University of Michigan. Professor Lopez, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, I do want to get your thoughts here, someone who studies this and has wrote a book about family deportations from the U.S. here, about watching this happen and Abrego Garcia being held in an El Salvadorian prison. What's your take?
Yeah, so it was shocking to see it unfold yesterday. As we saw, there was a Supreme Court decision 9-0 that Abrego Garcia should be returned to the U.S., yet we saw between Trump and Bukele that neither one of them intended to facilitate his return to the U.S. So it was shocking for many reasons. One is that we see this tension between what the executive branch can do and what the judicial branch can do. And as Sotomayor said yesterday, we cannot allow this simply to be a race between the executive branch deporting whomever they want as quickly as they can before the judicial branch can proceed with an injunction.
As we watch this, people like Abrego Garcia under protected status, if you are in the U.S. under protected status, how concerned are you for folks that are in the U.S. with that title?
It's an excellent question. I think it's very clear that the Trump administration, in enforcing immigration law, is always trying to send a message, right? And in this case, the message, as the Trump administration has been very clear about, is if you are in the country, we are going to try to find a way to remove you. We always counted on certain constitutional protections for everyone in the U.S., right? And we see those consistently being overstepped, including the right to due process. We saw in this case there was not due process. We saw President Bukele say that he could not return Abrego Garcia because he could not smuggle in a terrorist, right? So we see, especially in this language, already what Trump and Bukele are setting up. This is concerning for many reasons, including, again, the implication that if the Trump administration deports an individual fast enough, there will be nothing that anyone can do.
Let me ask a question. Abrego Garcia fled El Salvador. He said fear and gang violence against him and his family here. He is an El Salvadorian national. So does that add a complication to this effort by his attorneys to bring him back to the U.S. if he is indeed a national of El Salvador, yet under protected status here in the United States?
Yeah, I don't think that adds any implication or changes the situation. What's clear is that Trump was ordered to facilitate the process of his return. What Trump and Bukele both said is that there's nothing that they can legally do, right? Trump has made it clear there's nothing that he can legally do, that it's under the jurisdiction of El Salvadorian President Bukele. What we know, though, is that Trump sees himself as the deal-making president, right? And this is one case in which he is specifically trying not to broker a deal. He is not asking for Abrego Garcia to be returned, and he is not doing anything to negotiate or coerce Bukele to do so. He is paying El Salvador to host folks deported, or rather to imprison folks deported from the U.S. He could simply say a condition of this payment is returning Abrego Garcia or addressing any administrative mistakes the U.S. may make.
Let's talk about broader terms here, because during that meeting, the president of El Salvador, President Trump, suggested that U.S. citizens who commit violent crimes should be deported to prisons in El Salvador as well. How likely is that statement to come to fruition?
We hope that it's incredibly unlikely. We hope that it's impossible. We believe it's constitutionally impossible. The fact that Trump brings this up is really, really concerning, right? And it does bring up the fact that this is not simply a question of what we do or what the U.S. does with undocumented immigrants, nor how the U.S. treats immigrants. It's a question of how the U.S. treats other U.S. citizens, right, who it may not want in the country or may not want to grant rights. This is relatively, I will not use the word relatively, this is unheard of, and it was surprising to see Trump speak in this way. And you did not see President Bukele react negatively to this at all. It's important to remember that President Bukele will be making lots of money for his country if Trump continues to support this idea and to support and fund his prisons in El Salvador.
As the U.S. pays for housing in El Salvador. William Lopez, professor of public health at the University of Michigan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here.